Carl Higbie is my guest today, former Navy SEAL, best-selling author, and host of Carl Higbie Frontline. He's one of the most unfiltered voices on national security and government accountability. And today, he's going to be taking us inside this bombshell move out of Texas. The state officially designated the Muslim Brotherhood and an organization called CAIR as terrorist and transnational criminal organizations.
CAIR is the tuxedo side of the Muslim Brotherhood. If Islam were to march in here today and it became a majority of this country, we would lose our constitutional rights.
So the big question, is this about Islamophobia and a hostility toward faith communities? Or is this about Americans watching parallel systems of authority emerge inside the country? Legal, cultural, ideological. Is this about fearing erosion of a shared civil foundation? And then we're going to turn the table onto Thomas Crooks, the missing posts, the unexplained data, the accusations of FBI omissions, and the questions that are still unanswered. What's real, what's debunked, and what's getting buried?
I was a Navy SEAL. I work in a pretty high-profile personal position. I don't have an encrypted cell phone. I just have a regular iPhone. Granted, I'm not doing anything illegal, but it's like, why did he have three?
And finally, the Nick Fuentes problem. What should the right actually do about fringe voices claiming to speak for conservatism? Higbie outlines the origins of Fuentes, as well as the strategic, non-emotional way forward. Here we go. Keeping it real with Jillian Michaels. Carl Higbie, how are you?
I'm good. Appreciate you having me on.
You're kind of a freaking rock star. A Navy SEAL. How many Navy SEALs are there in the world?
I think at any given time, there's like less than 2,000 active, but there's a bunch of us old guys sitting around.
Oh, old guys. You're an old guy. What does that make me if you're an old guy? Like, let's not use that language.
You might be in better shape than me.
No, I don't think so. But I love you for saying that. I have a lot to ask you about. And, right now you host a primetime news show on Newsmax, former Navy SEAL, and you are uniquely equipped to explain some of the issues we're dealing with right now. And there's one in the news that I want to jump into off the top here. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna read it, okay? And then I have a clip of you warning about this, I think, 8 years ago. So Texas Governor Greg Abbott issues a proclamation labeling the Muslim Brotherhood and CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations, as foreign terrorist organizations and transnational criminal organizations under state law. So Texas passes this bill, SB 17, which expands what the state can do once a group is designated as a foreign terrorist organization or a transnational criminal organization. And the minute they have that label, you can ban land purchases, you have investigation authority, you have asset scrutiny, not sure what that means, but we'll get to it. Civil penalties, again, don't really understand it. Expanded surveillance, restrictions on contracts, education, and influence. So before we dive into what this means, you were talking about this with Megyn Kelly almost a decade ago. Guys, can you throw up this clip? This is crazy to me.
I mean, this gentleman here himself has said some very negative things about the entire Muslim community. We can't be promoting fear and hate against an entire religious community. Let's target on actual threats, but let's not divide Americans based on religion, because what makes America so great is freedom of religion. That's what the U.S. Constitution is about. Go ahead, Carl.
Well, Hassan, forgive me for not taking you too seriously about American security and safety, which is the paramount of Donald Trump's policies here. Your organization, CAIR, was listed as a terrorist organization by the UAE. 7 of your board members can't come into the United States because they have alleged terrorist ties, and you supported Hamas. So let's be very clear here. Donald Trump wants to protect Americans first and scrutinize people who want to join our country and make sure when they do join our country, they do it on our terms, which is safe for Americans, but we also want to be fair to the people who are already here. So I welcome immigrants, I welcome people from all over the country or all over the world to join us here, but I want to make sure that it's safe for Americans in my country that I fought for.
Go ahead, Hassan.
And that's absolutely false. I'm a civil rights lawyer. I run the largest civil rights organization in the state of Florida. We defend the rights of all people of discrimination, regardless of race or religion or
The UAE has designated CAIR as a terrorist organization.
The UAE did designate CAIR, not CAIR Florida, and we don't go by the UAE. We live in a democratic country. The UAE does not have democratic freedoms or liberties, and the reason they did is because another civil rights organization. Yes, a dictatorship. Are you under UAE laws, or do we believe in American laws? I go by the American system. Only a couple months ago, I met with the president. Our deputy director is a sheriff deputy, and he protects this country day and night. We keep our country safe. We're proud Americans, and we want to keep America a free and just nation for all people, regardless of their race or religion, and we will stand for all victims of discrimination.
Wow. Did that age well? And I mean that quite literally, because if I had seen that a decade ago, I would have been thinking like, oh, come on, you're just Islamophobic. So I want to start from the top here, because I don't even think I knew who Hamas was a decade ago. So let's start with, who is CAIR? I want to take it from the very top. Who is this organization? Because they're not labeled a terrorist organization federally in America. And what's the Muslim Brotherhood?
So this thing goes back, like, obviously spent 9 years in and out of Iraq. So like pretty intimately familiar with the mission of the, let's just call it the militant side of Islam. Okay. CAIR, and he parses it out, CAIR Florida, CAIR, the Council for American Islamic Relations. Okay. Their job, and Jillian, you can go back to the beginning of this whole thing. Like, I'm going to just present something as fact. Everywhere that Muslims are in the minority, they scream about minority rights. Everywhere they're in the majority, there are no minority rights. This is a fact in any country.
Yep.
So, when people say, oh, you're Islamophobic or whatever, not afraid of them. I think that there are cultural differences, and Islam as a religion is incompatible with our constitutional values here, as we're seeing in places like Dearborn, Michigan. Just recently, you saw Carl Higbie, no relation to me. He was out in Dearborn, Michigan. He was being pepper sprayed, and he was being detained by police for videotaping things. He was followed by drones.
I'm a journalist. I'm not a protester. This is my badge. Okay. Today on the streets of Dearborn, I was pepper sprayed, maced by protesters because I asked them simply why they were harassing and touching another individual who had stated repeatedly that he was only on their side of the street to talk to them and have a dialogue. My phone was smashed. You can see the broken camera right there. They stole $50 out of my pocket, and they stole my microphone receiver. I went and I told one of your officers, badge number 3668, that this had happened. He told me there was nothing that could be done about it unless I went to the station. I told him, I can't go to the station. I'm working. I'm doing my job. He said, I'm working too. I said, God, your job is to protect me and all of the people that are out here today. Okay. So he said that I could go into the station later. I told him, you're never going to catch the guy if I go into the station later. He's going to leave. He's dressed head to toe in black bloc. I filmed the whole thing, but he had a mask on his face. You'll never, ever get an opportunity to arrest that person ever again if you don't go and get him right now. He said, sir, I can't leave my post. 5 minutes later, I caught him in the parking lot on a personal phone call. Okay. Repeatedly today, I watched people that are in this room get attacked by other people that are in this room. I watched your officers not respond to those attacks repeatedly. Then I saw somebody who was in this group, which I'm a journalist. I'm just documenting what's going on, and I'm here to tell you what's going on. I saw somebody in this group get arrested. I asked the officer, habeas corpus, please articulate probable cause for arresting this person. They refused to. I asked name and badge number. They refused to give me their name and badge number as a member of the press with my badge clearly displayed. They would not tell me why they were arresting this person. They just did it. Okay. Yesterday, I was exploring Dearborn. I came here just to document this from Seattle as a journalist. Okay. I was exploring Dearborn. I walked up and down Michigan Avenue. There wasn't very many people out. Then we wanted to hear the call to prayer that we've heard so much about. So we went to a mosque. And at that mosque, I was followed by a drone. If I moved forward, the drone moved forward. If I went backwards, the drone went backwards. I went to a gas station, and that drone waited outside of the gas station, just above the door, for me to leave so it could begin following me again. I was followed by vehicles, and I was followed by individuals on foot. There was a lot of talk in here today about sexism. So I'd like to quote the Prophet Muhammad. Okay? One of my favorite quotes from the Prophet Muhammad. A woman's testimony is worth half that of a man's through the deficiency of her mind. God created two sexes, one superior and one inferior. That's why your women wear hijabs, because they're inferior to men. That's why Muslims are cousins. They can't leave their homes without permission of a male guardian. Is my time up?
You have 30
Yeah,
seconds.
30 seconds. Yes, I agree. Go ahead. Yeah, I think I shouldn't feel like a dhimmi in my country. That's what I feel like in Dearborn, Michigan. It doesn't feel like home. I feel like a dhimmi, a second-class citizen, which is what Christians are in the majority of Muslim countries. Dhimmis. Second-class citizens. And the policing in this city, that's exactly what happens. And I know rank-and-file officers in pretty much every city usually want to take care of these problems. You're the one giving the orders, Mr. Mayor. These guys definitely want to do something about them. They're business. Look at them. These guys are all business. Your orders. I'm done.
Anywhere there is a mass grab of the Islamic community, they start to impose Sharia law. There's Sharia courts all over the country right now. They're in Texas. There's 2 Sharia courts in Texas. These are issues that people are unwilling to talk about because it's uncomfortable, because the second they do, someone in the leftist media says, oh, they're Islamophobic.
Yes.
You have to have these discussions.
I gotta admit, I was like, oh God, how do we have this conversation without it being like, see, she's alt-right. Now I get to own Islamophobe. But at the end of the day, I'm like, we have to talk about this stuff because I've seen what's gone on from that video with Megyn Kelly to where we are now. And I have friends in the UK that are telling me what has gone on there, which again, I want to discuss. Let's back up for a second. For anybody who isn't overwhelmingly familiar, and Carl, what I think happens is we have like a top line understanding of things. Sharia law, bad. Women have to wear a hijab and they don't really get equal rights. But that's kind of all you know about it. And then, oh no, the Muslim religion is insanely peaceful and I've read the Quran and this is radical Islam. None of us, the average person, does not know. So my goal with this show is to just get inside of these issues. What is Sharia law and what does it mean to have a Sharia court in Texas? What does that mean?
So it's fundamental of the Quran and of Islam that they believe that is the highest power. Okay, that is the governing document, and it is above local laws. I mean, you have had a number of Muslim clerics in Great Britain, even in America, say these things on TV. Like, this is not a secret. Okay.
Yeah.
You have any time that you have these people impose their type of Sharia law or things like this, like, look, Islam and the way it's practiced in a lot of the, Islamic rule, Iran, a lot of the Middle East, women are covered head to toe. They don't have says. There's different rights, values for men and women there. I mean, in some of these countries, it's as extreme as if a woman gets raped, it's her fault. Yeah. And even places like England right now, the UK, where we're seeing this, I believe Denmark, and there was a recent in Europe, I can't remember which, I believe it was Denmark, where it was a Syrian refugee, but they didn't discipline him or send him back because the rape didn't last long enough. And they're bending the knee to these causes because, they're saying it's cultural differences. Well, like in Sweden, the rapes went up by 2,000 or 3,000% in 20 years. Ironically, at the same rate that the immigration happened from, Syrian refugees. These are undeniable statistics. And like, look, my interpreter from Iraq, Johnny Walker, was like one of my closest friends, Muslim guy. He warns about the same thing. He's like, I practice Islam. However, there's a huge faction that wants to tear down the American fundamental values and impose Sharia law. These people, the radicals, are out there saying it. And we're like, no. Under the tolerance and understanding, we're going to allow them to do this. And then you have Islamic rule, places like Dearborn, Michigan, where literally they put Islamic lettering on their police patches, where there was the mayor said that somebody wasn't welcome in that town anymore because he was concerned about naming a street that he grew up on an Islamic name that had unindicted co-conspirator ties to 9/11. I mean, this is crazy.
Okay, and I there's so much I want to dig into there, but you bring up 9/11. So I was trying to do a little homework, like, who are these organizations? Why is CAIR controversial? Because they've said, as this guy just did in the clip, like, we're good guys, we're fighting for rights, we're protecting you guys from the government infringing, and you're thinking, well, this is great, this is noble, this is important. But when I did a little homework on these guys, some members had associations with groups tied to the Holy Land Foundation. And then, of course, I just learned about the Holy Land Foundation because of the Holy Land 5, Where Mamdani is like, my love to the Holy Land Five, and I came to find out these were 5 guys that went to jail for funding Hamas. This is the Holy Land Foundation. So you're like, okay, wait a minute. So you're not, you're a civil rights group, but you're tied to a group that funds Hamas. Then critics say that they have ideological roots tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the other group that Texas just labeled as a terror organization. They strongly deny, CAIR strongly denies any terrorism connections, and yet overseas in the Middle East, they're labeled as a terror organization, but the U.S. government doesn't classify them as a terrorist organization. So why don't we classify them as a terror organization if the friggin' Middle East is? What am I not getting? Because it kind of makes Texas look like Islamophobes if the federal government is not backing them up.
Right. And because Texas gets it, and Texas will be the saving grace. They're on the front line of a lot of things. They're on the front line of defending, girls from men from coming into girls' sports, from a number of things. The Muslim Brotherhood was started overseas in the Middle East. Okay. Al-Baghdadi was a spinoff from the Muslim Brotherhood that became ISIS. Okay. Like, they're not on the right side of America. And anybody who says that, well, we can coexist with them, good. There was a journalist quite some time ago that went over there to the Middle East and decided to do like a peace tour over there and was beheaded.
Is that Daniel Pearl?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like, you can't make this stuff up. And the problem is we have largely white liberals will say, look, well, peace and tolerance and understanding, and they're going to march themselves right off their own cliff of social justice. And then they're going to ask people like me, who they've berated for the last 15 years, calling us knuckle-dragging thugs and Islamophobes, and they're going to ask people like me to come save them. And I'm like, guys, like, I tried to warn you. Maybe you're on your own.
Yeah. So the Muslim Brotherhood is what exactly? Because they're not CAIR. So when I tried to kind of distinguish these two, this is what I took away from a friend who asked not to be named. They said, a lot of people believe that the Brotherhood is an ideological pipeline that creates extremism, and that CAIR is the political shield that protects the Brotherhood-linked ideas in the U.S.
That's a pretty accurate description. So basically, CAIR is the tuxedo side of the Muslim Brotherhood. They're the people, they're the front face that says, no, guys, we're here for peace and tolerance. And they're pushing an integration and a normalization of a lot of things that run contradictory to our constitutional values. Like, this is the thing, and I can say this unequivocally, that if Islam were to march in here today and it became a majority of this country, we would lose our constitutional rights. We would. Okay. And maybe not all right away, but we've seen this everywhere this happens. There is an imposition of values that are not like our country. And, America, we just played on my show the other day a video of the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, said that he does not need to assimilate. It was his words saying he does not need to assimilate. His people in Dearborn, Michigan should not assimilate. They should bring their values here, which is totally different. It's totally antithetical from the immigration customs we've seen in America for the last 250 years.
Well, you often hear that's accompanied with that as well, you must assimilate. I shouldn't put out a magazine that's in 2 languages. Why can't you speak English? Why are my videos subtitled in Arabic? Why is my caption both in English and Arabic? People get frustrated by this. But to me, it's like, I actually disavow the use of the term the melting pot. I actually don't like it.
Okay. You know what's interesting? My wife dated someone who lived in Kuwait, a woman, and it was all like, oh my God, hush, hush, super quiet. My wife lived in Kuwait. And last night I was preparing for this interview with you, and I was like, honey, you have so many Muslim friends, and yet you agree with this. I find that strange. I mean, like, really good friends in the Middle East. Yeah. And she goes, you don't understand. Nobody here understands. She's like, I'm great with all of that over there. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we sound like, what do you mean? And she's like, you have no idea. She goes, we could live quietly. I'm in your country. I respect your country. You have the call to prayer at 5 a.m. We need to wear these certain outfits at your dinner table. Like, this is your way of life. And you can have no male friends that can come over to the house. Like, you have to meet male friends out in the middle of the Gulf in order to, like, she starts telling me all of these things. She's like, when in Rome, I'm going to respect your culture. But these are things that are completely antithetical to the way we live here. And she's like, you don't understand that. And as I started to do some homework, being gay, in the vast majority of Muslim countries,
they'll tear you up a building.
A few are punishable, and a few they'll punish you by death. Some is life in prison. Some is like 7 years in prison. It depends on the laws, like debauchery laws, things of that nature. Just things like that are insane. And you know what else is interesting? Foreigners can't buy land in these countries. Like, you can't go, except for like Dubai. There's a few exceptions.
Sure.
You can't go to Kuwait and buy land as an American, or by the way, as a Russian or anybody else.
Right.
And when you investigate into why, because they want to preserve their culture, their religion, and their way of life.
Yeah.
And they don't like Western ideology, yet my friends, for example, who live in Italy, they've had a huge influx of Muslims. And the Muslims come over and then they want them to take the crosses down off of the hilltops. And the Italians are like, we're Roman Catholic. This is Italy.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
This is the other thing. And I have said this, people always say, like, how do you address this? What do you do? We have the First Amendment, freedom of religion. Sure. But what happens when that religion is actually a political ideology masquerading as a religion? Like, does somebody have the cojones to stand up and say, hey, the way you're imposing this on the country does not fall under religious liberties. It falls under a political ideology. That's the conversation that needs to be had next, which is, and Ma'am Danny in New York is going to be a perfect example of this, because, like Dearborn, Michigan, you have the call for prayer at 5 a.m. and, that it violates noise ordinances that people who've lived there for 40 years don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear anything at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what point do you say, no, you don't have a religious liberty to impose on my way of life and wake me up at 5? I mean, you and I are probably up at 4:30 anyway. So,
no,
but I don't want to.
One of us is a SEAL, and one of us gets up at 4 a.m, and it's not this one of us. But anyway, go ahead.
Enough. But I don't want to. I want to sit there with my coffee before I go to the gym and have a little bit of peace. And I'd imagine if you had lived that way for 40 years and all of a sudden you hear loudspeakers blasting this, that impedes on your way of life. And therefore, to me, that doesn't seem like a religion. That seems like a takeover.
Yep. Okay. Explain to me a little bit about the religion as a government. I mean, we see this in Iran, obviously, with the Ayatollah. It's not in all parts of the Muslim world, or it is in part. To be honest, I really don't know. I know Iran is like insanely extreme. Right. But what facilitates this, that the religion becomes the government? Right.
And this is the other thing too, which is, so in America, we have a lot of people, especially on the left, refer to separation of church and state, which is in no founding document ever. It's just in Thomas Jefferson's letters to the Danbury Baptists with the intent to protect the church from the state, not the other way around. Now, that said, many other countries, their doctrine, their law, and the way of their cultural being is governed by religion. Like, religion is the fundamental thing that dictates their laws. So like Sharia law is like the law of the land in certain places, whereas we have our Constitution. Now, when you have a conflict there, when you have one person that says, no, my religious doctrine is higher than local laws, you say, well, no, we have a Constitution where all rights are endowed by your creator. You can't; those can't coexist, and that's the problem I have with Islam as a governing body. Everywhere it's been mass imposed, you have two standards of living. In Great Britain, for instance, Islam, they're praying in the streets, blasting the call for prayer, doing their thing. But somebody was arrested not less than a year ago for praying openly outside of an abortion clinic.
I saw that. I actually have a video from the streets of the UK that I want to throw up right now. Can you guys pop that up for us real quick? I'm sure you've seen this a million times, but
it's great.
part that gets me there is the whose streets, our streets, which is why I chose that clip. What do you mean, our streets? What is, because that, by the way, if you're the guy in the video arguing with you 10 years ago, it's not our streets as in the streets of Islam. It's like, oh no, we're all Americans. And then 10 years ago, I would have been like, Higbie, listen, dude, love that you're a SEAL, but, this is America. We're a melting pot. 10 years later, whose streets? Our streets, meaning Islam streets.
Right.
How in the name of God did that happen? Nobody really understands how we went from we're all Americans, or I would imagine we're all citizens of the UK, to our streets. And as much as I would want to say, and I have said this, listen, come on now, this is a small radical faction, and the vast majority of Muslims are like amazing. And I actually do have, I'm 70% Arab. I know a lot of Muslims. My wife has a lot of Muslim friends. And yet, now you have what looks like tens of thousands of people on the streets of the UK. So is it like a small majority can upend the United Kingdom, or is it a bigger group than we think, or what's the difference? What is happening there in that video?
It is a group that was small that claimed victimhood. I mean, look, Jillian, let's do this with the gay community, which you're intimately familiar with.
Yep.
Okay, so like back in the 70s, it was like very taboo. People were fighting for their rights. Okay, you get gay marriage, and people like me, who, by the way, if you had talked to me 20 years ago, I was like not like okay with the whole gay thing.
I get it.
And now I'm like, I don't really care. Like, I know a ton of gay people that you wouldn't even know unless they told you. But I've also, so that's the strides that the gay community has come, is it's like, hey, we're kind of normal people just like you guys. We just happen to date different people, or date people of the same sex. And most people nowadays are like, yeah, that's cool. Like, you do you, bro. However, you've had the radicals, like the trans, attach themselves to the LGBT. And now, before you know it, we've got drag queens twerking in 6-year-olds' faces at bars called This Won't Lick Itself. I mean,
oh my gosh,
that's the radical transition. And people like you, who are just like a normal person, who are like, whoa, this has gone too far.
Yeah. I actually have said that very publicly.
Yeah.
Because first of all, like gay pride. Oh my God, what is this? It's like this weird co-opted like branding thing for Target. It goes on for a month, and it's got merch associated with it. And then you have
in your face.
But it's stuff that remains in your bedroom, whether you're gay or straight, by the way, comes out into the streets. Like nakedness and like fringe elements of people's sexual preferences, which again, I couldn't care less what you do in your bedroom, but you could be, honestly, Higbie, if you came out in leather assless chaps, I'd be like, oh, Carl, I don't need to see it. I don't care if you're gay or you're straight. I just say kind of like, this is for you. And, but there's something that has happened in parts of the gay community, and this is where I guess I have to say parts of Islam, where a small percentage, I would hope, of people think this is acceptable and think it is acceptable to transition children with off-label cancer drugs, despite the fact that their brain is developing and they can't comprehend the consequences of the choices that they're making at this time. Like it is.
And they've done it on the backs of people like you who fought like, hey guys, like I'm a normal person. They've taken people like you who've been, very, mainstream, hugely successful in your career, and said, no, but we're part of her movement. It's like, No, you're jamming kids full of like steroids and estrogen blockers and all these other things. You're not part of my community. But this is the same thing with the Islamic community here. It's been taken to the extreme. You have a U.S. Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, who came here as a refugee from Somalia.
Right.
By the way, a lot of people don't know this. She came here from Somalia at our good graces because her father was a senior ranking general or a senior ranking officer in the military that was committing genocide. And when the government collapsed, they wanted to go kill him. So America took him in. Okay. She came here with him, and now she's a U.S. Congresswoman presiding over the #1 terrorist recruiting capital of America.
Can I ask you, how does a person like her, who gets taken in, not assimilate? Because the vast majority of immigrants I know, in particular refugees, end up loving America more than those of us who take it for granted. I could, PBD. This guy came from Iran, ran from the Ayatollah at 10 years old, fought in the military, became a successful businessman. How do you become, do you think? I mean, I know there's no quantifiable way to really know, but how do you go from like PBD, who loves America and fought for the country, to Ilhan Omar, who kind of quietly wants to overthrow the West?
Not quietly.
That is?
She's openly saying that she wants to represent Somalia here in America and make America like Somalia, the dump that she fled from. So, Jillian, this is one of the most frustrating things in the world. It's like America is the most benevolent country. Pick an issue. People say, oh, we want, America's so bad because it's racist because we had slaves. Yes, America had slaves, but so did almost every single ruling empire throughout history. America was the only country to fight a war amongst itself to enshrine those rights in our founding document, the Constitution, to end slavery. And then 40 acres and a mule, tried for reparations. We've done bent over backwards with DEI and everything to integrate through the civil rights movement, and yet still it's not good enough. People come here and now they're on our benefits. 43 million people, some of which are not American, on this country's tab, getting benefits that many of them don't deserve and are taking advantage of. And yet we are such a benevolent country that we do all these things. And finally in 2025, you and I, who 20 years ago, people would have said, you guys would never be allies.
Oh, no.
You and I are sitting here being like, wow, we agree on this. And, we're kind of tired of funding it. And maybe we should, have a little bit more oversight.
I actually was scrolling through. You brought up being on state-supported assistance. Here's something that's going on in the UK. It's not so easy to get all of the stats, by the way. Like, they go back to 2018, 2023. So I imagine the numbers are higher now. But today there are over thousands of mosques in England. But I imagine if you went to Kuwait, you couldn't really build a temple or a church, or Saudi or UAE. There are over 100 Sharia courts. There are more than 50 Sharia councils. Got to be honest, I don't even know what that means. Council versus court. 78% of Muslim women don't work and receive state support. Roughly 50% of Muslims don't work, like men and women, and receive state support. 30% of all Muslim households in England live in social housing. State-supported Muslim families with an average of 6 to 8 kids receive free accommodation. I don't know if this is true. I can't quite get a fact check on this. But I did read this, that most schools in the United Kingdom are required to teach lessons about Islam, and yet no one voted for this.
Right.
Okay. So this, again, if we went back 10 years ago, I would have thought you were nuts. And now I've seen it in the UK, and it's like our streets, Sharia law, Sharia courts, Sharia council, living off of tax dollars paid by citizens of that country. What is happening with the governments that are facilitating this? That's the part that I kind of get it here in the US. It's like, well, if we were to listen, as a statement of fact, the more people you have in your state, regardless of, I know you know this is just for the watchers. Yeah. It is a statement of fact, the more people you have in your state, the more seats you get in Congress and the more electoral votes you get in the presidential election. Correct me if I'm, okay. So it doesn't matter And we've famously seen Gavin Newsom recently go on Sean Ryan and say like, this isn't true. We've had more net migration into California than out, but they lost 1.4 million American citizens and got 1 million, at least this is according to the stats I could find, so it actually is more people have left, but 1 million international people to California.
Right.
But they're not American citizens. They might be green card holders, they might have a visa in some cases, but most are not. So, all right, well, that's kind of a lot of power. If you have got more seats in Congress and more electoral votes, I can see how that could be incentivizing. And if you created a path to citizenship and you were the one saying, hey, go to the emergency room and that's going to get paid through Medicaid, if you're not here legally, and here's some housing and here's some food stamps and here's interest-free loans and here's all the things. And there are loopholes because it's like, that's not true. We don't allow it. But states like California have the loopholes to facilitate it. Like, yeah, Medicaid doesn't directly pay for an illegal person's health care, but they go to the emergency room and Medicaid pays for that. So people don't understand that nuance. In the UK, though, or Germany or France, what is the incentive to facilitate this? I get it here, why one party wants it. I don't get it over there.
It's self-hating liberalism. I mean, this is what it is. People are, they traffic in grievances now. And the more minority you are, or the more oppressed you can claim to be, the more you have white liberals wanting to support you. I mean, like, take Martha's Vineyard, for example. This is like the hypocrisy of the greatest proportion. You have super far left Martha's Vineyard, okay, with people that have never met a social justice cause that they don't like. And yet when Ron DeSantis flies in a plane full of migrants, they activate 200 National Guard to immediately deport 50-something illegal migrants from their thing, sent them on a plane and got them the hell out of their country or their state. And meanwhile saying, oh my gosh, this was so lovely. It was so great to see. It's so beautiful. But yet they just got them all on a plane and got them the hell out. This is it. They claim these policies. And I did a whole bit on this the other night about masculinity. It's like, it's on my Instagram, actually. It's pinned to my profile. And it's like the liberal woman in America, not like classic liberal like you.
90s liberal.
Yeah.
The live and let live
like,
liberal. Yeah, that's kind of what it was, but not anymore.
Not anymore. And it's like they voted 80% for Ma'am Danny. Okay. 80% of liberal women in New York City voted for Ma'am Danny, while simultaneously the number one issue they cite on their resume that they care about is public safety. Yet this is the guy who just said that he was going to empty Rikers Island onto the streets of Manhattan. These women voted themselves off a cliff of safety, and then they turn around when they are in danger and look at people like me and say, why won't you save me from this attacker? And God forbid I do. As soon as they're safe, they turn around and they hang him up to dry in a courtroom like they did to Daniel Penny. It is the most insane thing.
Okay, let's talk about Mom Donnie for a second, actually. There's something here that just smells... that smells a little strange. So...
That he's never had a job, now he's running the biggest city of America?
That's funky. That is a funky one, but I'm gonna look at it. Hey, who knows? Let's see. But this one is just completely antithetical to Islam, and that's that he wants to fund sex changes. So hold on a second. Wait a minute, let me go back one more time. I'm almost positive that if I am openly gay in the vast majority of Muslim countries, I go to jail. In a few of them, I risk death. You are a proud Muslim, but you're going to gay bars and you want to fund sex changes with tax dollars. Are there two sects of Islam and I just only know one? Because
it is until they are a majority.
There?
Until they are a majority, they're willing to get along to become the majority. But keep in mind, America's facing a real crisis here. America, and look, Islam is not in the business of winning the next election. That's not the intent. That's not how this goes. They're focused on 200 years from now. So, on average in America, most families are having less than the replaceable amount of children right now. 1, 2 children. Yet you have many of these families that are coming here from Somalia or places like that that are on SNAP benefits, that are on welfare benefits, that are on housing subsidies and things like that, having 5, 6, 7, 8 children, literally replacing American citizens as a society. And then you've got what happened. Look what happened in Ohio under Biden. You had Haitians coming in, getting housing subsidies in Ohio that were so high that they outpaced and were able to price full-time, lifetime residents of Ohio out of their own homes because landlords realized they could make more from the Haitian refugee than the actual person that's been running that house for 10 years.
You know, I've got a video of someone talking about that birth rate. Can we toss up that clip, the replacement clip? There are endless clips like this.
The white British population has decreased by 600,000, while the minority population has increased by 1.2 million. So, yes, lads, we're winning.
Yes, lads, we're winning. Winning what? And again, but see, if you had come to me with this whole great replacement theory, I would have been like, oh, okay, Carl, come on, let's not go down a rabbit hole here. I would have said, like, we're in a QAnon black hole. And now there's video after video after video. And it's like, we're coming for you. We're not here to grow your harvest. Or there's a video of one guy and he's like, the Quran says, or Muhammad says, we're not here to grow your crops. We're here to harvest them.
Right.
I've never read the Quran. I'm a bit confused about all of it. Part of me feels like I need to, because
you should.
The last thing I want, honest to God, the last thing I would want is to truly be like an Islamophobe. Again, I'm 70% Arab. I've been all over the Middle East and loved it. I visited the troops in the UAE and Qatar and stopped and did some sightseeing. I've been all over the
very
place.
modern countries. They're like those are not the problem to the extent like Iraq or Iran or a variety of countries over there. Like I went to the worst parts of the Middle East, so I was like, "Hey guys, this is coming," and people are like, "No, I've been to Dubai. It's not that bad." I'm like, "It's a different part of the Middle East."
Talk about that for me. Let's talk about what you saw as a SEAL, and these quote different parts of the Middle East.
So, what's interesting is people are like, well, Carl, like I've been to the Middle East. It's like, nah, not the parts I've been to. And you have an entire group of people. I mean, and I'm saying this crassly, but it's true. This is the cradle of civilization, the Middle East. And if you go there, if you look at how they live, it is not advanced. Okay. It was advanced 1,000 years ago, but now Western civilization has far surpassed the Middle East on a number of fronts. And I say this not from a stance to denigrate anybody. I say this from a stance that, like, guys, like, let's look at the real problem. I mean, like Saddam Hussein, okay, murderous dictator, we happened to put him in charge. And then when he was too in charge, we decided to throw him out of power under the guise of weapons of mass destruction. We can debate whether or not we went in there for the right reasons. I think the war ended up being a complete disaster after I lost a bunch of friends there. Yeah. However, the Middle East is run by dictators. We came in there and was like, hey guys, check this out. I know you're a bunch of terrorists and have tribal infighting for the last 2,000 years, but check out this Jeffersonian democracy that popped up about 250 years ago. And they're like, screw you guys. Check out the middle finger. We're going to keep putting IEDs outside your bases. And we were like, I don't know why they want to do that. It was like, it's just such a fundamental misunderstanding of like how to deal with these people. And like, I'm an America first guy. I don't want to say America only, but pretty much. And I think like you guys want to be terrorists and do whatever you do and have tribal fighting between Sunni Shiites and Kurds, all you want, fine. The second you threaten the United States of America, you got problems. And I think getting out of those wars was probably the best thing we did at the time. The way we did it was terrible. It created ISIS, and then it overthrew Bagram and killed all of the confidential sources and aides that we had in Afghanistan when we pulled out of there rapidly under Biden. However, that area of the world will never correspond with Jeffersonian democracy, and they will rule based on the way that they have for thousands of years, because that's what they know. That is what the culture is.
Yeah. I think for me, it's kind of exactly what you're saying, in so much that, like, I really don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what God you pray to, and I don't care who you love.
Right.
However, I do care that you become an American.
Mhm.
And that was always a priority. It was a liberal priority as well. I have shown video after video after video of Barack, Hillary, Bill talking about how, listen, you got to control the borders. People have to assimilate. They need to learn the language. They got to show that they can support themselves here, that they can be a contributing member of our society. And
State of the Union speeches from Bill Clinton.
What happened? Is it really just some sort of conspiracy theory? Like, is it, and what I mean by that, is it really just like, hey, we're going to game the apportionment map and it's a political strategy? Because what are you really going to be ruling over when you've got rape gangs in the UK that have gone on for a decade, and nobody wants to go after this because they're afraid they're going to seem racist or Islamophobic? Like, what are you creating?
It's a conquest. It's like, when you understand, like, I've read the Quran, I've studied this, and look, there's plenty of Muslims that want to come to America, that love America, that want to salute the flag and live under our Constitution and stuff like that. Plenty of those people. But the problem is some of those people who come here and say they will do that, once Islam is the majority, they will side with Islam. However, this is a religion of conquest. That has been their mission for as long as I can go back into history for. Come in, and this is what the Quran tells you: come in, overwhelm, and declare it an Islamic state. That is the mission. And the people who are running this mission are not the moderates. They're not the people that want to coexist. They're the people like this Imam Chaudhry out of the UK, who says the craziest stuff you have ever imagined, and they just say it outright. It is a conquest that people better be wary about, because it's coming. It's already here.
It's already here in Europe in particular. Every fall, there's that shift in the air, right? Mornings get a little cooler, the light changes, and suddenly you're reaching for layers that make you feel grounded, comfortable, pulled together. And those are just a few of the things that I love about Quince, because their pieces don't scream for attention, but the second you put them on, you feel the difference. They've nailed the sweet spot of luxury quality without the luxury markup. Their $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters are ridiculously soft, not too heavy, not too thin, not itchy. It is literally the perfect layer that I wear under a coat or on its own. The denim fits like a dream. Clean lines, flattering on everyone. These are the kind of staples that end up on repeat. It's your personal fall uniform without even trying. My favorite piece is the Italian wool coat. Oh my God. The one I have looks and feels designer, but it costs a fraction of the price. The tailoring is beautiful. The weight is perfect. And somehow I manage to look great effortlessly every time I have it on. And what makes Quince different is how they work. So they partner with ethical top-tier factories, the same ones that produce for major designer labels, and they cut out the middlemen. So you're getting exceptional craftsmanship, responsible production, and prices that are about half of what you'd normally pay for pieces of this quality. So it's refined without being fussy, elevated, but approachable. The kind of wardrobe that makes you feel like you've grown into your style and finally stop compromising between quality and cost. Find all your staples at Quince. Go to quince.com/Jillian for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Jillian to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Jillian. You say you've read the Quran. I've heard people tell me, oh my gosh, it's the most peaceful, incredible book you'll ever read. Okay. But then I've also seen someone, I hate to admit this, but like on TikTok or Twitter, quoting stuff from the Quran that talks about taking over. What's in there?
It is a look. Most of the Quran is a principles to live by, just much like the Bible. However, there are significant parts, and it's all written through a lens of conquest. It's written through a lens of like, these are the values of Islam, and you should project them onto everybody else. And that's saying it very nicely. There are, look, the Old Testament has violence in it. The what is the Jewish Bible? The Jewish
Torah?
book? The Torah. Torah has violent stuff in it. Everybody's got violent stuff in it. However, it is really interpreted having, fought people like, face to face that believe the things in the Quran. Like, I can tell you there's huge factions. Like I'll just give you an example. There's 2.2 billion Muslims in the world right now. Okay. The State Department, and you can go on the State Department's website, it estimates between 8 and 12% of Islam is radicalized.
Oh, wow.
So call it 10% of the Islamic community is radicalized. That's 220 million people. We have a standing army of 2 million. Okay. You're talking about more radicalized Muslims in this world, on this planet, than there are military age people in America.
That's actually such an excellent statistic because it becomes quantifiable because you're like, well, the vast majority. But for some reason, there are problems cropping up everywhere. But when you really know the numbers, even though it's a, quote, small percentage, it's a small percentage of a huge pie. Carl, what made you join the military? Because you're obviously like, you know so much about how our country was founded. You're so passionate about being an American. You've taken the time to actually read the Quran. You risked your life for what this country stands for. How does a person arrive at this place to make these kinds of sacrifices?
9/11. So 9/11 happened my senior year of high school. And I wanted to drop out of high school, get a GED, go in and join. Like, both my grandparents were in the military. And I said, this is for me. My mom convinced me. She's like, just like go to college. I'd already been accepted to college with a part wrestling scholarship. And I was like, all right, I'll go to college. And so I go through 1 year. I'm not really digging it. One of my buddies had already joined right after 9/11. He came back from like his first tour in Iraq, and I talked to him. And this was when they like literally first started putting boots on the ground in Iraq. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I dropped out at the beginning of my sophomore year of college, joined up. And I remember walking, and this is the craziest thing. This is like perfect governmental like story right here. I walk into the recruiting office. I'm like, hey, I'm a D1 wrestler in college. I want to join. I want to become a Navy SEAL. And the guy looks at me, he's like, all right, so when are you thinking about shipping out? I was like, I don't know. I got to like run home and get some stuff. So maybe like an hour. And he was like, oh, ha, ha, ha. The soonest I can get you in is like 6 months. I was like, we just declared a global war on terror. And the fastest you can get me into the Navy SEAL pipeline is 6 to 7 months. Are you high? And so, that was when I shipped out. So I shipped out and I joined in 2003.
If you had said, if I was that recruiter and you'd said, I want to be in the Navy SEAL pipeline, I think I would have laughed you out of the room.
Well, he kind of did. He was like, well, let's pick a backup job. And I was like, no, I don't have a backup job.
Yeah. I've always been, you say like we're kind of unlikely bedfellows or allies in all of this, or the desire to kind of save Western principles and democracy. But I've always been obsessed with the military, and in particular the SEALs, because you guys are superhuman, literally. They friggin' drown you guys and bring you back to life. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, that's why there are so few of you. I don't understand what has to happen in the mind of an individual to go through what a SEAL goes through. Can you talk a little bit about how hard it is to become a SEAL and just Hell Week alone?
Yeah. What's interesting is like, maybe I'm just, I don't know. My wife would tell you I'm a psychopath, but I just remember like I signed up. I mean, Jillian, you've had some incredible physical feats in your life, and you've seen people work their hardest at things. And it's for me, I was like, look, I came from college wrestling, and I went in there. I'm like, I'm getting paid, not a lot, but I'm getting paid to work out on the beach and play with guns and explosives. Like, this is a pretty dope job. So, I will say that I was never, you talk to anybody who's made it through and they're like, man, it was hard and there's a lot of suck, but it was fun. And, I remember sitting there like, you're on 6th day with no sleep in Hell Week,
Oh,
you're carrying a log 14 miles down a beach, and you're like, man, I'm real tired. But then you're also like, what is it gonna, like how bad could it get? And that's the whole point. Like everybody in my buds class, what's funny is I was probably one of the bigger guys. I went through at about 230, which most guys
wow.
are like 175 to 185. So running, I was pretty much dead last. I sucked at running in every single thing. But I was almost like one of these too dumb to quit sort of guys where you could literally do anything to me and I'd be like, well, whatever. Um, but I remember going through some of these things and thinking to myself, like, and nobody's shooting at me right now. And then I'll tell you, there were times where I was at war in Iraq where I was sprinting, like we were in southern Iraq on one op, sprinting down this highway with gunfire, like literally holes in our cargo pants from the bullet fragments that were hitting the road. And I have never, I mean, we're trying to exfil out, we're carrying one guy who got capped in the stomach. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, man, I'm way more tired right now than I ever was in training. And it's like, I see why they put you through this kind of training.
Okay. I physically don't think I could do it. And just the cold alone. I, I'm a big scuba diver. Love scuba diving. Unless I am in the freaking Caribbean, I got about 20 minutes before my fingers turn blue. My teeth are chattering. I can't warm up. I'm in a wetsuit. I have like a 7-8 wetsuit. Like the thickest wetsuit you can get. And
So you're floating.
I like it. They have to weight the hell out of me so I could get below. And I just think, how does one get beyond this? Like, I don't have the ability to drive blood into my fingertips. I would love to do some sort of Bruce Lee kind of shit and push blood into but I physically cannot overcome it. I can't overcome the cold. The sleep, I don't know. I think I would become delirious. Starvation, I mean, maybe I would get beyond it. But the cold, the pain, the temperature, the drowning in the pool, all the crazy stuff that you guys have to go through. How does one override this physically? What is that?
I'll tell you, for me, like, for instance, like there's this thing they make you do, the 50-meter underwater, which was actually the hardest evolution I had in there because I had a lot of muscle mass going through. So holding my breath, I consumed a lot of oxygen. I mean, I had guys in my buds class that were like Ironman champions that could hold their breath for like 4 or 5 minutes. It was insane. You have to jump in. If keep in mind, you're sitting on a pool deck in November in San Diego at 4 a.m, shivering in shorts. And then they say, so obviously you're already, when you're that cold, you're already decreased in your body's ability to output things. You can't hold your breath for as long. Then they call your name, you stand up, you turn around, and you jump into the pool. You hit the bottom of the pool, which is 15 feet deep. You have to do a somersault without pushing off the wall, swim 25 yards to the other side, touch the other side, and then come back. And I passed out every single time. Like I blacked out every single time. On the way back, I remember seeing the wall and you're just like, oh, it's getting black. And then you wake up on the pool deck. For me, it was, I have an objective. And I guess this is what they instill in you is like, my objective is to do this. And I'm just going to die if I can't, because my only objective in life is that wall right in front, 20 feet in front of me that I'm trying to get to. That's all that matters. And they breed that. I mean, we had D1, like all American athletes in my class. They all dropped out, quit, failed in the first week.
Right.
Because they'd never been challenged. And
is it that, Carl, or is it that just physically your body is like, I'm not drowning today? Like when you start to go black in the pool, it's like, not going to do it. Not going to drown today. And it's like, I don't know that I could control my ability. Truly, honestly, I think that the parts of your body that do things without you being aware of it, like your hair growing and your metabolism functioning, your heart beating, I don't control that stuff. I feel like these involuntary bodily functions would send me to the surface of the pool. And I think part of the reason I'm so fascinated by it is because I wonder if regular people could harness just a piece of this, how much more could we accomplish in our everyday lives?
Well, I think it's lacking more and more every day today is we lack as a society, control of our emotions. I think people are more and more emotional and make decisions on emotion. I mean, you look at some of the kids coming into the workforce right now. They can't handle criticism. They can't even be on time, and you can't tell them that they're wrong without them throwing a temper tantrum. Whereas our generation, I mean, I grew up like, let me tell you, if I backtalked, smack to the face. Nowadays, you do that to a kid, you get CPS up your ass.
Yeah.
And this has been a problem. Like I always say, bring back dodgeball, because that concept really made us who we are as a country today. And I think we've gotten really soft. And I had a high school wrestling coach that, as rudimentary it was, I love this guy. And I actually told him 20 years later that this was a quote that I've like lived my entire life by, which is, you have to be tough enough in your life to be able to punch somebody in the chest so hard that you grab their spine. And he's like, and he always said this. He was never a military veteran, but he was like, there's somebody in this world that wants to kill you. And when you meet them, do you want to win or do you want to lose? And he was like, I don't even remember saying that. I was like, thanks.
You're like, oh, you said it.
Yeah.
I've been ruminating on it a long time.
Yeah.
I'm looking at young men today, and everybody's talking about this right now. It's like they're in the basement, they're watching porn, they're disenfranchised, they're angry.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are two reasons why this is happening. Too much feminization, unquestionably.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't see men being allowed to have more dodgeball.
Right.
And I hate to say this, I think we're seeing this with the Mamdanis and with the Fuenteses of the establishment just bending a knee.
It's a currency of grievances. Like, the more oppressed you are in the society, the more credit you get. It's like a social credit to be oppressed. Meanwhile, I grew up where it was like, no, you be better. Like, the America I grew up in was like, look, there's the horizon. Go achieve it. And if you don't, you're a failure. And now, I mean, look, I always say the world was better when we could call people retarded, and it was, but now you say that and it's like, oh, you're offending everybody. And it's like, I'm like, guys, I have to tiptoe around stuff. And that's why we're so soft. Like, I have a farm upstate Connecticut, very fortunate. I have 2 young boys and my daughter's 12. And we spend our weekends there. There's no iPads. We're outside. My son, since he's 6 years old, been operating heavy equipment. We're talking like tractors and excavators. And they don't ask for iPads. They're independent. And they have this sense of confidence from that, which is unparalleled and unseen today in the market that we have, because it's not taught.
What would you tell men? Because the reality is women cannot teach boys how to be men. And in fact, I tend to think that if we tried to do so, it would be completely counterintuitive. And yet I cannot tell you how desperately I would love to see somebody like you put your fist in the face of Nick Fuentes. And I know this is, I don't want to, listen, I don't want anything like bad, because that would be horrible. But I would love for I would love to see that kid get an ass kicking because he needs it. And yet, instead of him,
there's a lot of smart asses up there that have never been punched in the face.
But why are the powers that be not punching this guy in the face, even metaphorically?
Yeah, I mean, look, to be rudimentary, I box. I got punched in the face like 5 times this morning. It sucked. It was so. The problem is everybody has been very accustomed to speaking out of line and saying whatever they want, and there are no consequences. Like, I'll be honest, like when I was a new guy at the team, I came in a bit of a smart ass. Ranked very high. I think I was top of my buds class as, overall. So I came in, a little bit of chip on my shoulder, and boy, did I get humbled real quick by a bunch of guys that beat the shit out of me. And that's part of the game. People don't get humbled anymore. And the problem with men today is it's been discouraged. And if you look at this, and nothing against women, but my wife would agree with me on this, you have 90% of teachers and caregivers are women. You have 50% of kids growing up without a father in the home in America today. Yeah. That means that you have probably 25 to 30% of men that grow up with 100% female influence for almost their entire life. that
Yeah.
women, God bless, caregivers. I could never obviously raise a child from an egg. However, they do need the other component,
They
and
sure
that's the
do.
problem that's just completely left out, and it breaks my heart. And like I say to dudes all the time, you father a kid, that is your job. That is the one mission that you were put on this planet to finish. If you started it, you finish it at all costs. It's your duty. Otherwise, you're a piece of shit.
You know, it's interesting. I had this fight with my ex, and I lost the fight. And it was like, we need somebody very close to the family. And it was like, no, I don't want anybody being able to lay claims to my kid. I lost the fight. And, you know, it's an interesting conversation. My daughter's adopted from Haiti. So I felt like, okay, you know, like anything's going to be an upgrade from here. Nevertheless, you can see I knew this was going to be a thing. And it's like, you can see the absence of a father for a girl to have this positive reflection of her father telling her how beautiful she is, how valued she is. And, you know, you're like, okay, she doesn't have this transference. And thank God she's got my brother, she's got my business partner. And it's still, it's not quite this, it's not the same. And, you know, my son, it's particularly hard. And I talk about this all the time. And
just send them up to my farm. I'll take some free labor for a week.
You know, honestly, it's amazing how many good men have stepped in to be a role model. And the only solace I have is I'm like, listen, if it hadn't gone this way, bro, you wouldn't be here. So it just, you know, this is kind of like, this is the cross that you have to bear. But it's like, you see how desperately, you know, and where he finds inspiration. And you know, he's a boy that would be particularly vulnerable to the Fuenteses, and I watched him lean into the Charlie Kirks. And this is where I look at men like you, and I'm so grateful that there are role models. And I just wish that more men would have the guts to be like you. And I'm not seeing that. What do you think that sane men need to feel comfortable enough to step up in this way? And again, I just say, like, if Nick Fuentes can get as big as he is and he's not getting punched in the face and he's crossed paths with a lot of guys that I know and respect. I don't actually know Tucker at all, and that's like a separate issue, but, you know, quite a few of them. Yeah. And I would ask them to have handled it differently, you know, to kind of like be excoriating ideas and not giving a, anyway, nevertheless, I don't see men feeling empowered to be like you.
Yeah, you know, I mean, here's the thing is like, look, I actually know Tucker, not like we're not best friends, but I've known him throughout the years. He did my first ever interview on Fox News.
Wow.
Tucker's a good man. I mean, I don't agree with everything he says. And I think there's been a big mischaracterization of him in the Nick Fuentes interview. Like Tucker, you know, interviewed Putin and didn't push back on him.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And but you know, to condemn people for not condemning someone else's bad ideas when they're trying to get to like Nick Fuentes should be actually, to be honest, Nick Fuentes should be studied. Okay. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and this guy, he was a mainstream he worked for Ted Cruz. Okay. He was a mainstream guy. Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro were his heroes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mark Levin shaped his entire constitutional view. Ben Shapiro, he used to listen to him religiously. And people don't know this.
No.
And, yeah, but the issue is what should be studied is how he became as nuts as he is. And because what's not happening is this guy has a podcast that is more popular than Joe Rogan.
I know.
So obviously, a lot of people either at least agree with some stuff he's saying or are very interested to see why he says it. And Republicans would be well poised to understand what happened to him and how he ended up where he is today. Because if they don't, he's got 40 million people that listen to him on occasion.
That many?
40 million rifle through some of his videos.
Oh my gosh, I thought it was like
so
5
million.
The
Republican Party better understand how we got there, because you're going to have more people go that direction, which does not fit in mainstream conservatism.
See, but no one's saying that you are. I feel, actually, that's not true. half are saying this is not conservatism.
Yeah.
And then half are like, well, I don't know. And it like my concern is my son, which it's like, well, it's your job. He's your son. And you're, he's fortunately does not like Nick Fuentes, but boys like my son, boys my son is friends with, these young men that have been so disenfranchised that they're one of those 40 million that are listening to this. And I guess my concern is that if somebody doesn't give these kids an alternative path, that they become, what do you think it is? Honestly, if you what is it?
I'll be honest. Like, look, the kids nowadays, for the last 15 years, this DEI and social justice stuff has all been rammed down their throat. And now, honestly, like if you called someone a bad name, you were so bad. And kids, kids are kids. They want, like, nowadays, I listen to my 12-year-old daughter and her friends calling each other gay and retarded all the time. Okay. But they don't like mean anything by that. They're just
not.
Like, it's a funny thing to say for them.
We may
But the
still
problem
do
is
that,
it was so taboo for them to say anything bad for 15 years. And a lot of these kids pent it down, but they all felt it deep down. And someone like Nick Fuentes came along who said a bunch of really offensive stuff. And they were like, he's saying stuff. And they gravitated towards it very slowly, eventually. And then it became 40 million views. And now we're sitting there like, how did Nick Fuentes? It's because washy Republicans refuse to tell liberals to shut the F up and let kids be kids. Like, when we started medicating, and we could go into this one all day, with ADHD, like, oh, your 8-year-old's jumping on the bed. He must have ADD. No, he jumps on the bed because he's 8. And since we started neutering our children's creativity, that's when they started wanting to resist and fight back, but they didn't know how. And they quietly navigated into people like Nick Fuentes. And that's the danger that I see by trying to keep kids from being kids.
I've seen the radical sides of the left with the demonization of white people, and I'm like, if you keep doing this, you're going to breed racists. If you keep telling these kids who don't know anything about this and listen to frickin' rap music and have a favorite sports athlete, and were children when Obama was president and thought he was a good guy, that they're the problem. That part, they're vomiting up this woke ideology. And on the left, they're like, no, it's Trump. Trump has given a pass to your darker, evil, racist underbelly. And I'm like, I don't think that's the problem.
But it was like, if you don't vote for Barack Obama, it's because you're racist. It's like, no, I don't vote for Barack Obama because he wants to raise my taxes and take away my health care. Like, and then, nope, you're racist. And then that bred that. I mean, it's like, look at what Joe Biden did to the military. They spent 4 years telling white people that they're bad, so they just took their ball and went home, and we lost a really good amount of good soldiers. Recruiting was below replacement value.
Because they were, wait, hold on. Wait, you're telling me that they wouldn't recruit white guys for the military?
They literally taught white guys in the military that they were bad. Like, there are PowerPoints that you can look up that are like white guilt and all these social justice reform programs within the military. And white people are like, I don't want to be in a place where I'm being told that I'm bad. So they're just not going to re-enlist, and new people aren't going to come in. And that's what happened. And then Pete Hegseth came back in with Trump and was like, hey guys, we're just going to teach you how to kill bad guys. And all of a sudden, recruiting numbers were off the chart and white people came back.
Recruiting numbers are off the chart. Oh my gosh. See, I only know this from the Maha side of like 77% of Americans are, out of shape and unhealthy. And I was like, oh man, this isn't good. What about this one? What do you think about this? If I wanted to come to this country, if I'm an immigrant and I want to be an American, would you consider opening up a path to citizenship that says, okay, then you have to fight for the country and you have to join the military?
I actually struggle with this, and I struggle with like drafts and things like that. I understand that, in a war when you need numbers, yes. I think serving in the military is a cherished item that you should have to earn to be allowed to participate in. I mean, it is a huge honor to be able to fight for your country. And I would never tie it to a requirement of citizenship, because what you're getting is, I mean, take the GI Bill. You have a bunch of people that have gone on TikTok. You can look at these videos everywhere where they're like, I joined the military to get the GI Bill so I could go to school. Wow. So when I joined the military to go shoot bad guys in the face and break their stuff. I didn't care about anything else. Those are the people I want serving next to me. I don't want someone who joined to get their citizenship or to get an education or to get I want people who had other options. Like, look, I'm Carlton Milo Higbie IV from Greenwich, Connecticut. Okay. I had other options, but I dropped out of college, enlisted in the military, worked my way up from the bottom and I want other people who join for the reason to go kill bad guys. And that's what concerns me about the service thing.
Gosh, you think you have all the answers until someone who knows better than you presents a different perspective. I thought I was a genius with that idea.
It makes sense.
I was like, we can't recruit people. People are too overweight to join. This is like, you want to be an American? Show us how much you mean it. And give some service. We've got to. We have not enough people. I thought it was a genius idea until you just said that to me. Now I'm like, wait a minute.
But Jillian, I mean, like, how about this? How about we give tax credits for people who can complete different fitness things, up to a certain age? I mean, like, your idea is great. Look, if people want to come to this country and contribute things, like, that's great. You've got, service programs that are not military. You've got, maybe, fire departments and municipal things and things like that would be great springboards for people to embrace the values. Like, look, you run into a burning building to save someone. If you're willing to do that, you're cool in my book.
Got it. Okay. Looking at where we are now, it seems like we're on the wrong trajectory. Like, even if okay, more and more divided, more and more extreme on both sides. How do we get back to a place where people appreciate what it means to be an American, that we share this identity regardless of whether you believe in gay marriage or you don't?
It comes down to hardship. This generation has not experienced a hardship. Most people alive today don't really remember the 2008 crash, or at least weren't involved in the finance structure. Maybe, they were tangentially affected by it some way or another. But like, we never had a Great Depression. And I can tell you, like, I had this guy in the teams. I effing hated this guy, okay? But when we went to a gunfight, man, did we have each other's back, because we were getting shot at and we were in a hardship. Like, America, 9/11 was it. I mean, half the people that work for me weren't even born at 9/11. 9/11, people were like, oh man, like, grab the guy next to you and give him a hug. That brought America together because it was an attack on the homeland. It was a hardship that we all felt all over the country, especially me. Like, I watched one of the last tower fall with my own two eyes from the beach. Okay. Like, we have not had a hardship like that. And like, everyone's talking about 3-Eye Atlas. I was like, oh, sweet. An intergalactic boogaloo. Like, I'm in.
Wait, what? 3-Eye?
Remember that 3-Eye Atlas, that comet that might have been a space shuttle or whatever?
Yes.
So I was like, maybe an alien invasion wouldn't be bad right now. It might teach some people to appreciate some stuff. But
it's so interesting.
I'm kidding,
No, you know what? I almost wondered not to put on my little tin hat, because I do have a few, just a sidebar question on the Thomas Crooks stuff that I did want to get to, but it's just so out of context with everything we're talking about. But maybe,
let's go tinfoil hat.
This is okay. So I kind of wondered with all this UAP stuff. I'm like, well, nothing's materialized though. And oh my gosh, there's a comet coming towards Earth, and it's maybe a mothership, and there's this drones over New Jersey, and I'm going to tell you what it is, but no one does, and this, blah, blah, blah. I thought, like, is this some sort of psyop to get people to think maybe there is some sort of an intergalactic threat and we need to come together? Because none of this drone, mothership, Luma, whatever the heck, comet from space, none of that stuff is materialized into anything real. Like, were we supposed to kind of, I don't know, Luis Elizondo was saying, like, oh, there's stuff here and it's over our military bases and we don't know what it is, and were we supposed to come together about that and nothing happened?
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing: is it comes down to a hardship. I mean, like, maybe I don't think it's a psyop. I actually think the government. I mean, all parts of the government are definitely in my view, just different branches of the DMV, and they function about the same. I don't think that the government's really capable of a full psyop like that. I just think they're not organized enough. But the Matthew Crooks thing, man, is like I still want to know why he had 3 encrypted cell phones.
Okay. So I got a question for you. I mean, I hate to do this. I hate to do it, but I couldn't help it because I figured you must know this intimately. All right. Number 1, how does this guy get on the roof in the first place? How? The sniper had the eye on the guy, right? I mean, he took him out the minute he was allowed to.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, having done presidential cordon security as a SEAL, I can tell you that like that roof was awful close and should have been definitely in the controlled area. Just me talking like as somebody who sat on rooftops and shot people in Iraq, like that would have been the first place I would have looked for someone. And yet it was not. I have like, there's so many questions around this. And the more people tell me to shut up and stop asking questions, the more questions I have.
Yep.
We deserve to know, like, why did they wash off the roof right away? Why was nobody allowed up on the roof to investigate this? Not even congressmen were allowed up there until after they cleaned the whole site. Why did he have 3 encrypted cell phones? Like, was there another shooter? Like, how did he get away? Like, this, like, how did he get there? Why did they not know this? Like, all these things. Why were there pings from other DC phones, at his house? Like, what the heck is going on here?
I saw that. Okay, so I was like, wasn't there some sort of a ping from a cell phone that was at like an FBI office in DC? But I guess this came from the Heritage Foundation, and it hasn't been confirmed or denied. Something about these cell phone pings. What is that?
But these are the things. Like, what is that? You're right.
Okay.
That is the right question.
Right.
It's like, like I am like. Most of the conspiracy theories, quote unquote, that I have been accused of turned out to be right. Like I was like day one, like COVID seems like bullshit.
Yep, me too.
And
me too.
Yeah,
me
I
too.
was like, so let me get this straight. Like if I sit down in a restaurant, it doesn't infect me, but if I stand up and walk around, it does. But and you can't eat inside, but if you move the inside outside, it's okay. Yes. And then by the way, no, like it doesn't affect kids, but we have to shut down our schools and then take this vaccine. But if you ask a question about the vaccine, we can't answer that. And I'm like, how about the middle finger?
Yeah, I know. So if we were to look at all of these weird things, and I got a few more weird things, and they're just statements of fact. The kid was in a BlackRock commercial, but we'll call it a coincidence. Have you heard this one? So Austin Private Wealth, which is affiliated with BlackRock, initially shorted 12 million shares of Trump's media company like the day before the assassination attempt. And then the next day when Trump made it, they were like, no, we actually just meant 1,200 shares. This is just a little filing mistake. Oops, oopsie daisy. I mean, David, if we were to, okay, so those are statements of fact. The cell phone pinging, we don't know. We just found out the kid did have some sort of weird social media profile, and he maybe was into some really weird stuff online and was a furry or had, quote, I don't even know what this is, a muscle mommy obsession, and was into like fetish.
I think that would be like you, actually.
Am I?
That's your boy, Crooks.
Oh my gosh.
But also, you ask the same question. Why was that the only rally CNN took full? All these questions, and they may have legitimate answers. They may have made a trading error when they shorted Trump stock. CNN just may have said, hey, this guy's gaining a lot of popularity. We better take this rally. Like there may be logical answers to all these, but the fact that you're not giving me the answers makes me ask more questions.
Right. If we were to go all the way down the crazy town rabbit hole.
Let's get it. I got my shovel.
Okay.
And I just real quick.
Okay, real quick. If we were to go all the way down the crazy town rabbit hole, what do you think is actually going on there? Honestly, like, or honestly, honestly, in a crazy way. If you were to go all the way down the crazy town rabbit hole, is this kid like a Tyler Robinson weirdo who's into muscle mummies and furries and, unhinged because he seems like it? Or is there more going on here?
I mean, look, I'll break this down into a couple components. It was not a difficult shot to make at 121 yards, I think it was. Like, that's not a difficult shot. My kid has been pinging 100-yard targets with a 22 since he was 4 years old.
Wow.
Okay.
Impressive.
So, it's take that away. Anybody could make that shot if they wanted to. The fact that he missed is the miracle here.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he had all these things, so encrypted stuff. Like, I was a Navy SEAL. I work in a pretty high profile personal position. I don't have an encrypted cell phone. I just have a regular iPhone. And granted, I'm not doing anything illegal, but it's like, why did he have 3? I had 2 at one point. I thought that was a lot. And you have to wonder, like, I am definitively sure that there is more to this story than they are telling us. Definitively sure about that. What it is, I don't know. But I'm going to keep asking the questions because I don't know. Just tell me this stuff, guys.
Okay, so the 3 things that you would leave people with to make the country a better place, the world a better place, and their life better and higher quality.
If you want to make your life better quality, do something that sucks every day. Like, go to the gym and make it hurt. Like, do something hard because it makes you appreciate comfort.
Yeah.
Make the world a bigger place. Stop giving foreign aid to everybody, which would make America a better place because we could focus on our own stuff here at home.
I like it. Carl, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I love your perspective. You've given me a lot to think about. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and all about your show on Newsmax, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
6 p.m. Newsmax, Monday through Friday. And, Carl Higbie, at Carl Higbie on all the social platforms. I pretty much post everything up there. So that's me in a nutshell.
And thank you so much for your service.
Well, thanks, Jillian. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.